My name is Toby Oxholm. I'm the director of the Pardon Project, which is a project of something called Philadelphia Lawyers for Social Equity. And so you're saying, well, what is somebody from Philadelphia doing in Erie, right? Reasonable question. It's Antonio's fault. So blame him. If this all goes terrible, you can blame him. I've been trying to, we started a pardon project in 2018. And what we were doing with it in 2018 was expanding the range of services. Oh, is something going wrong? So expanding the range of services that our nonprofit law firm in Philadelphia was offering to low-income people in Philadelphia. We only serve people at 200% of the poverty level or less.
Right. They're saying that you
Can't hear me. Oh my goodness. All right. Can you hear me now? Maria, you're all right? You're the only one head I can see. So I'm good. All right. So I'll talk this way. We got started in 2011. And what we were doing is we were helping low-income folks clean up their criminal records. Now, I'm a privileged white guy who grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I'd never seen a rap sheet. So I've gone through law school. I've been a lawyer. I've been a university president. I retired to the Poconos. I'm trying to volunteer. I volunteer for this organization. And I see a rap sheet. And I'm appalled by what I see. A person may have been convicted of one or two things 5, 10, 15 years ago. And their rap sheet goes on for page after page after page after page of all the arrests that didn't end up in a conviction, right? Non-conviction or summary offenses like public urination, public intoxication, where the fine is small. It's like a parking ticket, right? But it's administrative.
Okay, no, it's...
What I learned was if you go to court, you can get those expunged, which is erased. You go to a judge and say, Judge, they didn't prove their allegations. It's hearsay.
well, they're right in here, or
right,
the TV.
you gotta silence yourself, guys.
I'm
Who's
gonna pull
ever
the
talking?
TV cord.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to start that one. You go to court and say it's not fair that people ought to think of me as an X, Y, or Z when they didn't prove it. It's just somebody say I was and they didn't prove it, so get rid of it. And that's called expungement. The criminal record is arrest and conviction.
Okay, so
unless
unmuted.
Art, you got to silence your
mute.
PC, man. So if you want to get all that stuff off your record, you have to go to court and file a petition for expungement. And the DA gets to come and they get to argue about it. But we do 3,000 of these a year in Philadelphia, and we win 99% of them because there's some exceptions. But what we found after 10 years of doing this with our clients, 80% of them still had a conviction left on their records. So the rap sheet wasn't 2, 3, or 4 pages long. It was 1 page long, but there was a conviction for burglary or robbery or counterfeiting or drugs. And can I say drugs? Drugs are everywhere. It's not just Philadelphia. They're afflicting communities all across our state, high income, low income, and everything else. And there'd be felonies. Pled guilty. Why? Because the deal they were offered at the time was good. Plead guilty to the felony, time served, get back to work. Okay. Not thinking that you'd be a drug felon for the rest of your days. And being a drug felon prohibits you from doing, I don't know, everything, including going on school trips with your kids, or serving as a coach of T-ball, or serving as a temporary parent for your niece or nephew. The state will put your niece and nephew in some other family's house for a temporary period if you have a drug conviction. The only way to get those convictions off of your record is by a pardon. William Penn had the first pardon power in Pennsylvania. William Penn, you probably know who that guy is. He got it from King James or Charles or somebody, and it was to establish complete justice. So William Penn had the power to pardon everyone, just like the President of the United States. And that was the power in Pennsylvania until the late 1800s. When our governor was selling pardons to, political contributors and people, his friends and stuff like that. So the people rose up and said, no, we're going to have a board of pardons through which people have to go in order to get to the governor if you wanted a pardon. Okay? So now you got the governor and you got this board of pardons down here and you got the people with convictions. If you have only been arrested and not convicted, you can go to court and get an expungement. Again, if it's only a misdemeanor or a felony, you go to this higher level. And that is what a pardon is all about, getting to that highest level with the governor. And what a governor does is pardon you, which means blot out any indication of your crime. So like it didn't exist. And so the case law is, if it's blotting out like it didn't exist, of course the judge has to expunge it. But you still have to take that extra step. You have to go back to court, file the petition for expungement, and automatically it should get granted. And that's the way you get these things off your records. So if you look at the materials that I have out there, here are the key words we've been talking about. A criminal record is arrests and convictions. Expungement is erasing the record. Clean slate. How many people have heard about clean slate? Raise your hand, right? All right, half the room. Clean slate doesn't clean nothing. It doesn't. What it does for people at home is it puts something in front of it. So you can't see what the record is, except if you are the police or the prosecutor or any agency dealing with kids or anyone doing an FBI background check or any company that does business with the federal government. So in other words, that record doesn't go away. It's not clean. It's just hiding. And it's hiding to bite you in the butt when you least expect it, and then you can't do anything about it. So the only way to protect yourselves, your clients, your friends, your community from this history of arrest and conviction is by going through this process. Okay? Commutation is different. Commutation means I am under a sentence, I'm in prison, I'm on probation, I'm on parole, and I want to shorten it, or I want to get out, I want to be done. That's commuting, it's shortening. That also goes to the same board, and it also goes to the governor. But it's not a pardon, because the pardon is a complete forgiveness. It is complete forgiveness, not just a shortening. And the last word is exoneration. That means you weren't guilty to start with. So it's not just getting rid of the conviction, it's saying, excuse me, I'm really sorry, we shouldn't have convicted you. That's exonerated, proving you were innocent from the start, or at least proving you were not guilty. So for you lawyers doing CLE, and this is the CLE program, I think we have one or two lawyers in the room. Excellent, 2 lawyers in the room. First CLE word, you have to report 3 CLE words in order to get your 3. Got the rules, right? Julie gave us the rules. First word is pro bono. Well, that's 2 words. But pro bono is what lawyers are supposed to do pro bono publico, for the public good. Bono, good, publico, public. For the public good means, all right, pro bono. So your first code word is pro bono, which means lawyers are doing this for free. Why? Because we're lawyers. We have a license that says nobody else can practice law. And as part of our license, we are supposed to do this stuff for other people, for the good of the community. All right. So those are the words. Now, I've already, on the PowerPoint thing, you'll see that I've already talked about what a pardon is. It's the blots out the very history of it. So let me tell you why communities like Erie and all these other places that are starting these things up are interested in pardons. You have to come up and get it. Right? Yeah, they're all up here. He was asking for the handouts right here. All right. So why are we talking about pardons? I'm at the Mercy Center. You guys understand pardons, right? It is, you go into confessional and you say, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. And you are forgiven. You show your penance, you change your ways, you're forgiven. That's forgiveness in the religious context. We're not asking for the state to forgive anybody in a religious context. We're making it part of our self-interest, because those criminal convictions are holding people back from doing what they could do, bringing in money for themselves, their families, and their communities, supporting bodegas, small businesses, getting better housing, better food, better healthcare, keeping the kids in school, helping them read, keeping them out of the school to prison pipeline. Money matters. And what's the best way to get money? It's not by government programs, right? Who wants that? It's by letting people do what they can do, competing for jobs they're qualified for. They're just not having to check the box and say, yeah, I got convicted of a felony or a misdemeanor. This is getting rid of having to check the box. A pardon says you don't have to check that box anymore. And what difference does it make us as a community? The study in 2020, $16.5 million. $16.5 million comes out into communities like Erie in just 5 years. It was over a 10-year period. It took 5 years to get a pardon. So we're talking 5 years of economic data. 16.5 million. And how much did it cost the government? Nothing. So what's not to love, right? This is a free program. This program, this study called it a no-cost workforce development and neighborhood investment policy. We're doing this. This is why we're doing it. We're doing it for ourselves. The heck with people with, criminal records. And it's good we're not focusing on them because it's all about us. Okay. The next chart in there shows how many, next slide, shows how many careers in Pennsylvania require a license to be given by the state where criminal records are looked at. Look at all those things. And you look at cosmetologist. I didn't even know one of those. I thought that was someone who studies the cosmos, right? Yeah, right? It's somebody who does hair. Why would the state have to license that guy? All right, who cares why? The fact of the matter is you could be denied a license to be a cosmetologist, or someone who's a funeral director, or a bus driver, or anyone who's doing any job with kids, whether you could be a maintenance guy in a school or a bus driver, commercial driver's licenses, healthcare, elder care, home care. You can't get those jobs if you have these criminal records, which makes no sense, especially if the person did their bad thing 5, 10, 50, 20 years ago, when they're 18, 19, 20, 21, when the whole world knows your brain is still developing, and you're now 30, 35, and 40, and you're trying to support a family. So why not let them get on with their lives, which is what this is all about. And last November, this statewide board, the Workforce Development Board, came out with a recommendation to the governor, and he was right there in the meeting last November, said, for anyone whose crime did not involve violence, and they finished their sentence 5 years ago, and they haven't been arrested since, get them their hearing within a year so they can get back to work. So this is what we're talking about, a community-wide effort to get people back to work. Okay, so now it's up to us. How many of you know someone who has actually been pardoned? One person, 2. All right, that's more than most rooms, 3, right? Almost nobody knows someone who's gotten a pardon because it was reserved for guys like me, who got a good lawyer and get through the system. But what's happened is this form is now, we're going to go through the form. In less than half an hour, you're going to be an expert in this form. You're going to be able to teach anybody how to do this. Lawyers, you're going to be able to do this for free for people who can't afford you and charge $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000 just for doing this for the clients who can't pay. And that includes like the kids of the CEO of your most important ever client. These kind of arrests and convictions hit families everywhere. And the same system applies to everyone. And it doesn't cost a dime to apply. It just needs understanding what's going on and not being afraid of a government to do it. Okay? So here's what's going on. Here's the process of getting a pardon in Pennsylvania. Really straightforward, not a lot to do. Lawyers, this is the easiest pro bono you will ever do. I'm a lawyer and I'm telling you this is true. I've done pro bono all my professional life. There is no set of rules. There are no hearings. There are no memorandum of law you have to do. There are no arguments. There's no pleadings you have to file. There's nothing you have to enter your appearance for. The only thing we have to do in a court is get copies of records. Copies of records. And I'm going to show you what they are. And we attach them to the application. That's it. And in this county, if anyone is going through a pardon project, and this will be part of a pardon hub, this will be part of the pardon project after today, you can contact the clerk of court, Aubrey Haynes, and she will send you the records for the person by email. No cost, as long as they are 200% of poverty or less. That's the deal. She's been terrific in getting these records out to pardon hubs, pardon coaches, and the individuals fast. I just saw her a couple days ago yesterday in Canonsburg, and she was on a panel talking to other court clerks around the state about how this works. So here's how it works. You get the application, which is online, and I've circulated it to everyone. And what I've circulated, what came out from the Bar Association, is a fillable PDF. Here is just a graphic, you have to write it. But if you go online, you can type in, so it makes it a lot easier. You type it in, you fill it out. You get the court records, which we can be able to get through Aubrey's office, and you mail it in. Still mail. This time next year, it's supposed to be computer. Still mail. It'll still be mail next year, because a lot of folks don't have access to high quality internet. So we can still use it by mail next year. All right. Once it gets into the board and they've said it's filled out and complete, they will then send a notice. The Board of Pardons staff will send a notice to the county president judge and district attorney saying, hey, this guy is, this person, I'm using guy genderlessly, I hope you allow me to do that. This guy has applied for a pardon and here's their application. Do you have any input? That's really what it says, very short. And then the president judge and the DA get to write back and say yes, no, or don't answer. Beth Hers is the district attorney here. She was the first assistant under Jack Denary. She and Jack were on the Pardon Project Steering Committee. They helped put this program together. So they already know who's coming through and what the criteria are. They're already favorably inclined to help out because they know who we're trying to help. So, and all we have left is the president judge, okay? They may not even know the person. It's supposed to go to the sentencing judge. It may have been 15 years ago. There's no more sentencing judge. But that's what happens. When all that happens, then the next step is the Board of Pardons gives it to the Department of Corrections, to a probation or parole officer, and they say, go out and investigate this. And it's, it's the state. They can ask whoever they want in. They certainly interview the applicant. If there's a victim, they'll interview the victim. Then they'll go to, I don't know, the applicant's family, their employer, their banker, their ex-wife or ex-husband. They can ask whoever they want. And they put together something in a report. They summarize it and they send it to the Board of Pardons. Comes in, there's a form they fill out. They send it to the 5 members of the Board of Pardons. There are 5. And here are the 5. And I went over the slide, but I knew I'd get back to it. 5 people on the board. It's Lieutenant Governor. He's the chair. Currently, it's a he. Might next year be a she. The Lieutenant Governor is the chair. Next is the Attorney General. Those 2 are there as long as they are in those positions, and whoever comes in next, they come in next. Then there are 3 other people who are appointed to 6-year terms that are overlapping. So you have a victim's representative, a corrections expert, and a medical doctor. Each one, every 2 years, one of them may change or get renewed. You have 5 people on the board. They review it at something called a merit review. And at the merit review, they decide who merits a public hearing. Because our Constitution, since the 1870s, requires a public hearing. It was an Open Records Act before there was an open records law. Pennsylvania's way ahead of the curve. And they vote. Out of the 5, if you're asking for a pardon, you only need 2 votes. Just 2. And you get to a hearing. Okay, that's not bad. And if there's a hearing, the hearing is usually 60 days later. It's called the public hearing. The next public hearing is coming up on August 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It's on TV, it's Zoom. If there is anything you do in life, if you're interested in pardons, get on the Zoom, August 2nd, 9 o'clock. It's, it's webcast, and watch 15 minutes. So you can see what happens. Watch half an hour. Book for you lawyers, book a whole hour. Pro bono, it counts towards pro bono. You'll see what happens. They come out, they're all on screen. Lieutenant Governor gathers them down, reads the instructions, calls the first applicant, and usually the Lieutenant Governor says, we've already read your file. We don't want you to tell us anything. You have 15 minutes. Would you please yield it all back? Basically saying, we don't want to hear from you. And, if the Lieutenant Governor and the Attorney General are telling you to shut up, what are you going to do? Most people don't say anything. And then they say, any questions? And they go down the list of 5. Either they have questions or they don't. And their answers. And then they call the next one. And you'll find out from listening to these guys what they're interested in, which helps everyone who's applying and every coach who's trying to coach, because you're going to see that Dr. Williams always asks about alcohol all the time. And the Attorney General always asks about public service. Yeah, you heard us. What have you done to help us recently? Not just have you done your time and paid the fine. What do you do to help? Volunteer service, really important. Churches, are we in favor of that? Absolutely. Is there a faith community out there that doesn't believe in redemption, second chances, and service to others? No. So you don't have to have done public service at the time, but by the time you come up for the hearing, you really need to have done it, because it's important to at least 1 vote, maybe 2. All right, so at the public hearing, they ask you questions, they go on to the next person, the same session, maybe not the same day, but the same series, 3 or 4 days, they will hold a public vote. And they'll go through the list of everyone who appeared, and they'll say yes or no. They call the names of each of the 5 people. They'll vote yes or no. So you're going to know that week whether or not you're recommended to the governor. And how many votes does it take to get to a pardon before the governor? 3. 2 to get to the hearing, majority vote to get to the governor. Now, if you're serving a life sentence or your crime was murder, you need 5. But for virtually everybody else, drugs, counterfeiting, prostitution, robbery, whatever it might be, 3 votes to get to the governor. And if you get to 3 votes, you're going to the governor where there's 1 vote. Now, way back when, back until 2019, 84% of the applications that were being sent in, mailed in to the Board of Pardons, 84% never got accepted. They were defective. The answer was no. Or the people couldn't afford it because you had to buy the application, you had to buy the filing fee, you had to get the complete criminal history from the state police, you had to get your complete driving. None of that anymore. It's all free. And what percentage are people now going before the Board of Pardons if they have actually completed the application fully? 80%. 80%. And the staff is actually calling the applicants if they've left something out to make sure they've filled it in correctly. If there's a gap, they're allowed now to call. So attorneys out there, we'll get to your role a little bit on, but if you're thinking about it, if you really mess up, they're going to call you to find out if you really meant to mess up or whatever. So there's a client service attitude there that's remarkable. And I've been dealing with the Board of Pardons staff now for more than 2 years. They are devoted to this. They want people to get second chances. They are trying to help. So you're not going to find a bureaucrat who will put you on hold for 10 hours and then give you some gobbledygook bureaucratic answer and then hang up on you. Not going to happen. And they respond to email and they get back to you and you'll find out they really want you to succeed. All right. So that is the system. You've got 2 votes to get to the hearing, 3 votes to get to the governor, 85% chance of getting to a hearing. Sorry, 80% chance of getting to a hearing, 85% chance of getting on to the governor after that. 80% to get to the hearing, 85% likely to get to the governor. And the governor, somewhere between 99 and 100%. So that's why there are you have a 2/3 chance of ending up with a pardon if you just fill out the form. And there are a lot of people out there who fill out the form wrong. And so what are we doing here? If you have a criminal record, you're learning how to fill it out right. If you're willing to help somebody else fill out the form, which we're calling the pardon coach, you're learning what the Board of Pardons want and helps them fill out this form. And that's really all it is. And in a minute, you're going to see how simple it is. So here is what we're going to do. Oh, there's one little bit more of information I wanted to tell you. So many of the crimes around Pennsylvania were drug related. They've hit every neighborhood, every county. All right. So we did a study of over 1,500, I guess it was. We had 804 individuals whose crimes were at least 10 years old. 804. The board took 1,143 votes. 1,143 votes. The chances, if your crime was non-violent, non-drug related, chances of getting to the governor, 79.19%. Okay, that's all the votes over all this period of time. If it was non-violent and drug related, remember it was 79.19, non-violent drug related, 91.55%. And if your crime was drug related and non-violent 15 years earlier, 93.8%. Why? Because if you have been clean and sober for 10, 15 years, the likelihood you're going to commit another crime is virtually none, same as anybody else. And the board understands this. So when you're talking to folks who are in recovery, in the recovery community, this is something that they need to know. It's not just Everybody has about an 85% chance, 67% chance, 85% if you're getting through the board. No, for them, it's almost 95%. Because we realize that when you are addicted, you are feeding your habit. It's not your brain that's taking charge. And if you're off the drugs, you have a really high likelihood of success. So please spread that word. The recovery community deserves to know this. It's another reason they keep on. There's a light at the end of the tunnel for everyone, right? And that's really important. So we're now going to be talking about pardons, the form. For all of you lawyers in the room, here's your second CLE word, pardon. Okay, that's the easy one, pardon. First one was pro bono, the second one is pardon. Write it down. You need all three for credit. All right, so now what I want you to do is look at the fillable PDF form that looks like this, which is the application for clemency. Again, clemency is commutations and pardons. Okay. Now you're going to get this on a website. Now I'm going to show you if I can. Wait a second. Share screen. All right. So I hope Maria, can you see that the website that I put up there? Excellent. This is my organization, Philadelphia Lawyers for Social Equity. And what I wanted to show you on this one is that if you sleep through this and totally forget everything, or you found that I spoke too fast because I'm from Philadelphia, come on here and you click on video library. And if I'm lucky at all, please, yes, video library. Okay, that is the former Secretary of the Board of Pardons, Brandon Flood. All right, here are 25 videos that you can watch. Some are movies about folks. Here is the power of the pardon, talking about that. It's a real good, here's peer-to-peer advice. Here are 9 different questions that these folks, sorry, let me move this out of the way. Uh-oh. All right, fine. Why is a pardon important? What is the Board of Pardons looking for? How hard is the pardon process? How do you prepare for it? Do I need a lawyer? What if I wasn't guilty? So these are people who actually gone through the system, gone through the hearings, and are giving their reflections. These are all 3 to 5 minutes. We basically made these videos for people in Philadelphia, riding the subway and watching between stops. And then down at the bottom is DIY, do it yourself. So we have a lawyer who's been volunteering with us for a couple of years, going through the application every step of the way in 3 to 5 minute bites and showing you what to do. Even showing you where on the website to get the forms, all this kind of stuff. So this is really easy to do, and it's built for clients. It's not for lawyers. It's done easily so everybody can understand this stuff. Okay? All right. So now that's one thing. And here's the second one. Here's the Board of Pardons website. Maria, did I do that right? Can you see the important alert? Brilliant. All right. Board of Pardons, bop.pa.gov. It starts off by saying, important alert, avoid rejection, get the court documents. If not, you're going to be bounced. Better English than that. But basically it's saying you have to go to court to get these documents, because if you send in this application without documents, you're a loser. They'll send it back to you. They can't do anything without the court documents. Why? Because they're going to test what you wrote in this against what the police and the judge were saying at the time. And if what you wrote in this doesn't come close to what the cops and the judge were saying at the time, they're going to think you're lying. Now, how many times have pardons come out to a liar, to someone who's consciously lying when they're going asking for mercy? No, this is about mercy. So you have to be open and honest. You have to own what you did. You have to go into the confessional and say, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. So you've got to be telling the truth. We're going to be talking about what that means, but at least know that on this place at this time, you have to go and get the court records. You can click here to find out what the court records are. And again, this is written in pretty good English. As soon as it pops up, maybe it'll pop up. There it goes. All right. It says those are the records you have to get: criminal complaint, affidavit of probable cause, criminal information, plea or verdict, sentencing order, proof of payment. I'm a civil lawyer. I tried cases in the civil side. I don't know what these things are. I don't know what they look like. So if you click on them, you can actually see a picture of them. I'm not going there, right? I don't know what I'm looking for, which is why having Aubrey Haynes willing to send us these things by email in a PDF takes all the risks out of that. So all of us non-criminal lawyers, us emeritus lawyers, the brand new lawyers, law students, college kids, you don't need to worry about this at all. because we're getting these records for you. You have to read them so you know what they're saying, but they're going to be giving them to you. All right, and then they say where to go to the documents, all that kind of stuff, how to repeat application. They give you the Adobe Reader. They say download the 2022 application package. And when this comes out, you're going to see, zing, yes, explanation of what is sealing, what's clean slate, what is an expungement, what's a pardon, what's a commutation, a website, filing instructions, what are the different documents you have to give, and instructions for every different section. So even if people are not aware of what's happening, really, don't know, you can read this. For most people we're helping in Philadelphia, it's daunting. It's really hard. So what we're going to do, and then it has the application here right at the end. It does say, what are the factors considered in pardon applications? The answer is whatever they want to. Really, there's decisional law from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court that says this is a constitutional agency. They can decide anything they want. They don't want guys in blue shirts? Well, no. They don't have to explain. They never explain. They vote yes or no, and they move on to the next one. They never, ever, ever say anything. And the courts can't review them, and the legislature can't tell them what to do. And there are no criteria that they put out there. But I'm going to tell you what they're doing. We've watched them for 3 years. They agree with us. You have to have been off probation or parole, out of prison, not under supervision for at least 5 years at the time of the hearing. It's taking 2 years, 2.5 years to get there. So you can actually start applying in 2.5 years and just be good for the next 2.5. If your crime involves sex or violence, they don't want to see you for 10 years. It's not fair. But anything more than simple assault, aggravated assault, they really don't want to hear. Even if you pled to ag assault, if it wasn't, it's a lot harder. You have to be clean and sober. You can't be under a current warrant. You can't have an open prosecution against you. Other than that, apply. Now, anyone can apply. Anyone can apply anytime. I'm just saying if you want to succeed, you have to have those criteria. And in the Erie Pardon Project, we said those are kind of the criteria, and you can see them because we have them written up there on the website. And you have to be under a certain percentage of poverty. I think it's 200% of poverty line in Erie. It is what we're trying to get around the state. But you can help anybody you want. These are going to be the same rules for everyone. So the pardon, if there's a victim, have you made up with a victim? Are they against, that kind of stuff? But really straightforward stuff. Yes, ma'am.
If someone's application is submitted and it gets rejected or sent back at any point in the process, then they can apply.
Yes. So the question for those who didn't hear it was, if you get rejected by the board, can you reapply? There's two things. One, you can ask for reconsideration, in which case you have to bring some new information to their attention. Or you can wait, I think it's 2 years to reapply.
If you get sent back because they're missing the documents, so
If you're missing the documents, what's typically going to happen is they will give you a number, and if you send it in, they'll give you the same number. But it's taking about a year and a half to go from receiving it to filing it. And then it's taking another year to getting the next step. So you have lots of time to supplement, present more things. Okay, so what I'm leading up to is right here is the form. We are going to go to the last page of the form. I know this doesn't make sense, but I want you to go there. And actually, it's only down page 5. It says, submitting your application. All right, it's going to look like this. Okay, can everybody see that? Everyone's got that? Okay. Submitting your application. Required. Court documents. Duh, right? They warn you. Completed and signed application. Duh. Optional. Certificates, diplomas, recommendation letters, supporting documents. They are not optional. This is where other people get to say you deserve a pardon. This is where other people get to validate who you are. This is the corroborating evidence that people are looking for. This is other people saying, yes, this person deserves a second chance. You do not have to attach those letters at this time. But if you attach something at this time, it gets in the record guaranteed. And then you don't have to worry about the next step. So if you can, when you're dealing with the folks who are applying for a pardon, see what kind of good things they can get together. A letter of reference. They may not have ever gotten one before. Help them write it. See if you can go to their employer. a certificate, a GED or something, put it in there. They do volunteer work at their church, mosque, or synagogue. Have the priest, rabbi, or imam write something. If they're in the Toys for Tots, have a picture of me with a toy for a tot. You know, Thanksgiving, whatever it is. The more things there's no restrictions on when you can set in. You're trying to prove that you're a good guy. If it was me, a guy, I'd have my wife say I'm a good dad. What's the downside? And the more of these things they get and attached to this, the more they're putting something that we in higher education call the portfolio. They can use that for job interviews. They'll be thinking about where folks are going downstream, how they're going to use this information. And every time they get a letter or a certificate or a thank you or a promotion or a letter denying them something because of their criminal record, it goes in the portfolio and you send it into the Board of Pardons and you're using the application number so it gets to the same file. So that when he comes up or she comes up for the interview with the parole agent, or when they come before the board, they have a file that's growing with more and more proof that this person's really doing a good job at it. So it does say optional, right? But it's really not. Add to it later. Recommended, keep a copy. We're suggesting everybody keep a PDF of this, not a graphic copy, but PDF. Share it. If it's coming from the Mercy Center, share it here. Keep it for the clients. If it's coming from the Pardon Project at Erie County, keep it there because there's going to be an interview in a year and a half. The client may have moved, they may have lost the papers. What are they going to do? They have to prep this. You have to read what they wrote in order to make sure they're ready for the interview. So keeping it, and then it says mail it in. Pretty simple. All right, back one page. Signature. Question for the lawyer. You do not have to represent somebody. You can be their coach and not sign this document. You can even be a coach and sign this as a coach, not as a lawyer. And for all of us that are lawyers that are working on this, there is malpractice insurance covering you, so there's no reason that you or your firms would want you to do this. But you don't have to sign as a representative. The applicant needs to sign, but sometimes distance separates, right? So you can't get to the client, or COVID. So during COVID, we were actually having our coaches sign under the next friend or other line at the bottom, Toby Oxholm, coach for. And then putting on a yellow sticky. Seriously, we will send in the client signature original. You have to get the signature in originally because they want to make sure it's the applicant doing this. But that is what they're signing. Now look at all that lawyer stuff above it, the signature. You know that I know any of my clients in Philadelphia wouldn't have a slightest idea what this was about. There are a lot of lawyers who don't know what this is about. We've seen the verification requirements on pleadings and such. And this threatens you with perjury if you lie. Okay, that's not what this is about. This is your chance to talk with the person who's applying, saying, if you don't tell the truth and the whole truth, you are an idiot. You're not going to jail. You're going to be a loser because you've got the Attorney General up there. He's got friends, right? They are going to be able, we're going to be investigating you. If they find out that what you wrote in this is not true, you don't deserve mercy. And this is all about mercy coming out, right? So you have to be honest. There's some questions we're going to talk about how do you answer this question, be honest, but don't make up something. Say what you can, be open and honest, because if the board gets a whiff, really, if the investigator gets a whiff that you're not telling the truth, that's what's going in the report. I didn't get a good feel about this guy. And your chances of getting a pardon go from 90 or 85% down to the 67%, and you're keeping the average low. That's what's going on there. All right, you're going back one more page. Now, the form that you see here actually has a blank page. If you download it off the web, it's got all sorts of lines so people can write on it. The writing it on a PDF means you can do it on a Word document, share it by email with your client, the person you're helping. They can read it, they can edit it back, and then you can copy and paste it, put in the document. There's a spot at the bottom that has a check mark that says down here, check here if you need to keep going. They do not accept 8.5 by 11 white pages. This is the government. This is their form. So if you look at the back of this packet, you're going to see an extra white page, and then you put 2 of number. You have to use their pages. Please don't send an 8.5 by 11. They are not ready to, be in the 21st century, okay? They use their forms, but this is the only page where it says, if you have more to write, I say, write it. Because this is where you coaches and you applicants are saying, who am I today? Where am I going? How am I being stopped from getting to that place by what I did back then? How can the government be sure that I'm not going to fall back to what I was doing back then? And what have I been doing to help other people? Right? Who am I today? Where am I going tomorrow? And believe it or not, lawyers, do not start with section 1, page 1 and say, okay, what's your name? Where do you live? And who's your representative? And let's talk about the crime you committed. That's sections 1, 2, and 3. You start off with section 4. So what brings you to my office today? You're having problems? Tell me about it. What aren't you able to do? Oh, really? You can't do that? You weren't able to go on the bus with your kid on an outing? Wow. You know, and start finding out how this is hurting them in their current life. They're coming to you for help because they have a problem. Don't start talking about what they did 15 years ago, cross-examining, that's not what it says here in the police report. No, this is about who they are today. And the farther ago in time that this was, the less the Board of Pardons cares about what it was, right? Because it's a long time ago, unless they're lying about it. We'll get to that in a minute. But this is their chance to talk about, our chance to talk about, our being able to, as a community, say, this person deserves that second chance that only a pardon can give. It's an essay. In Philadelphia, the average person reads at a 3rd to 5th grade level. It's an optional essay. It says optional. How many people have been on watching TV where they know what you say can and will be used against you in a court of law? Everybody. So why would you ever write anything optional? So most people will never write this. And then what happens? Goes into the board, goes out to the parole officer. The parole officer finds out what he or she wants. They make up a report, and they never heard your story. So what are your chances? Probably not as good as if you had given your story. And this is where you give your story. So go through it 2, 3, or 4 times. Does the client have to actually handwrite it? No, some of my clients can't do that. So they dictate it. I take notes. I write it up. I email it to them. Some of them don't have email. Fine. What's an email where I can reach you? I've sent it to mothers-in-law. We've set it up. We've read it. We've gone over it. I've edited it, sent it back until they say, yeah, that's my story. And then I copy and paste and put that in. It's good if they can do it. And if they do it, it's their language. It's the way they speak that's coming through. So that when they're interviewed, it's the same person speaking on the paper that's speaking over the phone or answering the questions on the Zoom. And that's really important. Lawyers, do not clean up your client's statements. Don't improve their diction. Don't improve their spelling or punctuation. If they're writing it, that's who they are. Let it come out. Because this is important to have integrity and not give them any reason to think something's going on. Reducing the chances, the risk that they're going to think something's up here. So try not to do what you would do for every other client and make the perfect filing. No. This one is your client speaking. And that's actually part of the ethical rules of this. This state board is not a judicial enterprise. It's not. It's an executive branch function. It goes up to the governor. It's an administrative agency. It's not a court. It is a tribunal under the ethical rules. Misrepresenting anything, any fact to a tribunal is an ethical no-no for lawyers. So you just don't do that. But go back to rule 1. You tell the truth because not telling the truth is stupid. And you're trying to make sure that your client has the highest likelihood of success, which is why it's in their interest. You do not have to verify everything they tell you. You don't. It's on them. They're signing this last page. It's, yeah, I'm stupid if I'm not telling the truth. So we've got to encourage them to trust the process, even though they don't know of anybody who's ever gotten a pardon. And they know it only goes to white guys who are rich, who have lawyers, who know Trump, or whatever it is, right? So we have to establish that level of trust that this is all about them because everybody wants them back to work, helping their families. That's this optional essay. It can go on for length. It can explain how I grew up in a bad household where my dad wasn't around and my mom was addicted and I was on the street since I was 12 and I ran with the wrong guys and I did the best I could and I was out there selling. Okay, now what? And here's what I'm doing today. I'm out there making sure kids my age back then don't do this. I'm going out there and doing with youth clubs. I'm going to the service agencies. I am being a model for my community. I'm helping to do this, that, and the other. Whatever it is they're doing. Some people don't have time to volunteer. They have to. Not by the time they apply, but they have to by the time they have their hearing. So make them go once and do the Toys for Tots. It's not going to kill them. It's a Saturday. Okay? And look, a lot of my clients, they run 3 jobs. They're exhausted. They have to find something because that's 1 out of 3 votes they need. And that's how practical it is. They don't need it right away. They can plan for it. They just got to get there. Okay? Now you're going back. I want you to go back actually 3 pages to something called Section 3, Convictions for which clemency is requested. And by going backwards over 3 pages, you see that the 3 pages are exactly the same. Okay? There's nothing special about that. Now, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, and I'm going to show you where on the web you can find certain things. And they will be in the document you get from court as well. But you see the middle part of this page is a blank. And it's an essay. And it says, okay, so what were you doing? How'd you get caught? This is a test. It's a test. If you don't own what you did at the time, your chances of getting a pardon or forgiveness is really low. So this is a test whether or not what they're going to say today matches what's in the court record. Because, you know, if they're saying, look, I didn't do it. I was minding my own business. The cop came up. He said, hey, fella, up against the wall. Put his hand in my pocket. What's this dye bag? If that's what this person writes, and the cop has lots of records. We were staked out here for 4 weeks. We watched this guy do it for 4 weeks. We finally got him. Who are they going to believe? It could be true. It could be true. There are an awful lot of people who went to prison, who got sentences, who pled guilty to felonies, who didn't do it. And the board knows that. Okay, so what does this person do when they're answering this question? If you're innocent and you know you have to plead forgiveness, plead that you did it, what are you supposed to do? Lawyers, are you allowed to tell them to lie and write that they did it? That's an easy trick question. Of course not. You know, that just increases the disregard and distrust of the judicial system. Have them talk about how they came to be at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people. And how they get arrested. Because they did that. And again, the farther ago in the past, longer ago in the past it was, less important is going to be the telling of that story, except if they're inconsistent. What happens if the guy was so high on drugs or alcohol, they don't have a clue? Now, this would say, tell me what you did, and you'll make up the best you recall. It can be way far away from what actually happened, because your perception was impaired, your memory is impaired, and time has passed. So you start off, I was higher than a kite at the time using these drugs. I really don't remember, but this is what I remember. So you qualify it, right? So you're building in, lawyers, you're building in the explanation for why the explanation to the individual today is going to be different what's in the court papers. It was 15 years ago. I don't remember. It was 15 years ago. I don't remember, but this is what I do remember. It was a lot harder when they were asking about juvenile records. Oh my God, the clients I had that had to fill out that section. I don't know. I was 8. I was 10. I was 12. I ended up going with my mom down to North Carolina. They don't know what they did. This is not a test about memory. This is a test about truthfulness and ownership of what you did. So you have to work with some clients. You will find some who said, I didn't do it, and I'm not going to say I did it. I'll give you an example of a client that was one of that for me. This is a client who was arrested for aggravated assault. No, not arrested, convicted of aggravated assault. It was about 10, 12 years ago. And here's the story. I was in the back seat of a car with the mother of one of my children. And I told her that I had another girlfriend and I had a child. And she was wailing on me. And I was trying to protect myself. We both have dreadlocks. We're in the backseat of a car. The car is moving. People on the outside are calling the cops. The cops come over, pull us both out of the car. They try to take us, separate us. They say, what's going on here? He says, I'm not going to make my lady go to jail. I said, I said, I did it. He pled guilty to aggravated assault. Right? His sentence in the plea bargain, time served. He had a stay away order, right? But it was time served. So what did it matter to him? He didn't put more salt on the wounds that he caused this woman, who was the mother of some of his children. All right, so what does he put in there? I didn't do it. I didn't hit her once. It was all a big mistake. I pled guilty because I'm a nice guy. I said, we write in there, you're in the backseat of the car, you pushed her buttons, you told her that you had been unfaithful and were sleeping around with somebody else, you got in a fight, and you got arrested. 100% true. 100% true. Not, and I punched her. That part's missing. That part didn't make any difference. This client got recommended for pardon because he owned what he did. And he wasn't saying, I didn't do it. He just didn't say, I did do it. So there's a difference there. And lawyers will appreciate that because we are professional storytellers. We know what words matter and how we put words together and how we create the argument to get from beginning to end to show this, that, and the other. That's what's really good on section 4 on optional essay. You're telling the story of redemption and deserving mercy and forgiveness. And in this thing too, this is the story of the crime. So as you're thinking about that section, you really want to be thinking about owning what you can. The stuff at the top, if I can, I know some folks have to leave, and I apologize for that. With any luck at all, wait a second, please. I want to move this from, shut this down at the bottom. I'm going to go to case search. Okay, this is UJS portal. This is where you can get the criminal record of anybody you want in Pennsylvania, right? Search by, it's the middle blank. I hope you, Maria, can you see this okay with this? From what you're on there, the search by form, you there? Great, okay, thank you very much. Search by participant name, okay? So here's the search codes. You have to know date, files, county, participant name. So I'm gonna use someone's name who I have the permission to do. Brandon Flood. All I'm typing in is his name, Flood Brandon, and I'm go down here for docket type and I say criminal. Okay, I hit search. And in, I don't know, roughly 2.5 seconds, I have Brandon Flood's criminal record. This is how HR directors are checking every applicant that comes into their offices, even if it's illegal to do it. Who's gonna know, right? Who's gonna know? The thing over here on the right-hand side, the Ds are dockets, which is the actual court activity. It's like a list of what happened in the case. And the Greek Parthenon kind of building is the court summary. So if you look at the court summary, Maria, can you see this, Maria? I'm looking at you because I can say, excellent. So here is what happened. So here's Brandon Flood. His case is Dauphin. He had a arrest in 2005 for manufacturing with intent to deliver, felony, the F is felony, felony. Then another one in 2005 for manufacturing delivery, another one in 2005 for manufacturing delivery, another one in 2005 for firearms. So this is a gun-carrying drug dealer. This is also a guy who was a secretary of the Board of Pardons, who got a pardon, okay? But I wanted you to see that this is what pops up, and this is what people know. This was in 2005. This man went to prison. He served his time. He came out. The reason I wanted you to see this is because, now you're gonna have to go back to the form that we were looking at, section 3. On the upper left, in the middle section, it says offenses. Okay, the offenses. I want you to go on this form, this way, highlight, left click, manufacture, deliver, pref, mif, whatever those initials are, then right click and you make a copy, and then you go and you paste it into this form in the top line. Second line, second line, third line, third line. He's got 3 crimes, use 3 pages. That's what it is. Copy, paste. Don't write out what you think that word say. Copy and paste. Okay. The next thing, offense date. Okay. I'm going to come back to that one because it's not here. It has arrest date in here. Worst case, use the arrest date. They're going to be close. And honestly, they don't care. They don't need it. They're just trying to figure out how long ago was this. And sometimes arrests don't happen for a really long time. The next one is the OTN number. OTN, offense tracking number. That's on this form too. See the OTN in the upper right-hand corner? Well, it's not upper right, it's blue, offense tracking number. That means when you come into the system, it's not the number you're booked with, but when you come into the court system, it follows you through the system. So in Philadelphia, your probable cause hearing is before the municipal court. Out here, it might be a district magistrate judge. They say held for court, bound them over to trial and common pleas, and that number tracks them. and it's in the record twice. All these crimes are now on there twice. One held for court, one up here. It's just doubled in length, which is why some of these rap sheets are 2, 3, 4 pages long. So you're getting it there. That's the OTN. Now the case search, if you go back to the case search for the date of the event, you're going to hit the docket, and this is a court docket. Okay, and this is actually their computerized record of keeping track of Commonwealth versus James Brandon Flood. Initiation date, 5 to, I can't see that, sorry, May of 2005. Arrest date, February of 2005. Let's see what else. Offense date, way down here at the bottom, offense date. I don't know if you can see it, but it's really down there at the bottom of the page, and you have to roll to the next page. Here it is, January 20th, 2005. So you put the January 20th, 2005. And you've gotten this all online. And if you're a coach, if you're a lawyer, if you're going to see the client in 15 minutes, you've now filled out the top of the second page for every crime there is. But don't start by asking about this crime. Remember, start by asking about what they've done. Now, this one has a checkbox at the bottom too that says, check this box, you want to keep talking. Don't you check that box. Because the more you say, the more likely it is that there's going to be something different. So I'm going to say one more thing for the folks who have to leave, because I know some people are getting ready. The first page, we're on the first page. You have to fill in every blank, nothing goes empty, because they will move it from being worked on to the I'll get back to it later pile. Down in the lower right-hand corner, it says representative information. And the left, sorry, that's the right-hand corner. In the left-hand column, it says representation, self, friend, family member, attorney. If you're going to represent these attorneys, check the box, put your representation. If you're not going to represent, and the client's coming in, they have to check self, but do not go to section 3. Go over to the representative information. This representative is your fail-safe. It's your backup. It's your emergency contact. If they can't find this person because they've changed cell phones or email addresses or they've moved, how long do you think the Board of Pardons or the corrections officer is going to spend looking for them if the letter comes back, addressee unknown, return to sender? Yeah, 0, roughly right, 0. So who's going to know where you are in 2 years? Brother, sister, child, coworker, boss, doctor, any of those things, you fill out that blank to make sure that they know what's coming. Now, that will out this person as someone with a criminal record trying to get a pardon. And they've got to let the representative know this is what this is about, because you don't want a letter coming from the state saying, how are your pardon applications been received? And all of a sudden this person say, whoa, what's this about? So you've got to make sure that's solved. But please have the fallback. There is a 12 to 18% dropout rate before this form of people who never got back in touch with the board. The board couldn't find them. And that's the tragedy. So when you're filling out this first page, you have to check all the boxes. And those of you who need to leave, you can leave, because this is not critical. I hope I didn't make you late. There are 2 boxes at the top you need to know. One is you're checking the pardon. And the other one, if it's a marijuana offense or paraphernalia, you're checking the second box, marijuana. That entitles you to, you're putting on a fast track. Everything else in here then is, have you applied for a pardon before? That's yes, no. You have to give information about that. You have to fill in your full name. My name is Carl Oxholm III, and the next line says alias. My alias is Toby Oxholm. My real name is Carl Oxholm, Roman numeral 3. That's my suffix, which nobody knows what that is anymore, but my suffix is 3. If I send in Carl Oxholm, Roman numeral 3, they might send it back because I didn't fill in my middle name. I don't have one. NA. NA. Anytime there's a box you don't fill in, it's an NA. And lawyers, please, this is the easiest thing. Don't mess up on this because it can slow things down. You want to make sure that any box in here doesn't apply. Apartment number, NA. Here's one, name of institution, inmate number, parole number. If currently employed, it's not a memory check to say, what was it when you're back there, right? This is NA, NA, NA. Fill it in. You don't want that out there waiting. If you don't have a secondary phone, NA, that's not your backup number. It's your phones where they can contact you. The representative is there. Now, if you type in somebody else's phone number who knows about it and they call it, there's no big deal, right? On this one, it's just making sure you have everything down. Aliases. Toby Oxholm instead of Carl Oxholm III, sure. Cops mangle people's names all the time. And you will find names misspelled in the dockets all the time. Those mangled names are aliases. Why? Because you want them picking up everything that's out there under any name it could be, so that when the governor grants the pardon, it is for everything. You don't get bonus points for asking for a pardon for 2 out of 3 convictions. Go for everything. Either you've changed, you've turned the corner, and you're a new person and you deserve mercy and a forgiveness, or you don't. There was a woman we represented who had 10 crimes. You can see what happened. Possession with intent to deliver, counterfeiting, theft, retail theft, prostitution, robbery. What was it? She was addicted. She had 10 counts. What was the reason she wanted a pardon? She had a daughter. And she didn't want her daughter to think of her as a drug-fueled prostitute. Duh. Did she get a pardon? Absolutely. No question about it. 5-0. So they're looking for redemption. They're looking for change. They're looking for confirmation that they're not going to see your ugly face in this room again. And if you and outsiders, alternative verifiers, the validators, these recommenders, these certificates, if they all come together to make this packet, that's when the state says, okay, you're pardoned. So the last CLE word for your lawyers is mercy. It's a wonderful place to be in this room when we're talking about it because it's all over the walls. This is civil mercy. It's been in our state since the 1600s. And it is very alive in Pennsylvania, thanks to the reforms that have been made by this Board of Pardons and the governor. This governor will sign his 2,000th pardon within the next 2 weeks. 2,000 individual pardons, second chances, and they are going full tilt. Get the word out there. This is for everybody. Get them in line. We can supplement it later, but please fill out these forms. Give them their chance for the second chance. It's what they deserve. So that is my entire talk. I don't know what time it is. It's pretty close to 2. You lawyers can be dismissed. You've got the 3 words. Get your words into Julie. I do want to thank Julie Kresge, who's the Bar Association Executive Director. Tim George, who was the 2nd Vice President when I was working with him, putting this program together, putting the Pardon Project together. Tim has been terrific. And in terms of other people I wanted to thank, other than Aubrey Haynes, Beth Hers, DA, Pat Kennedy, who was the public defender. Is she still the public defender? She was. She was absolutely terrific. Pastor Charles Mott, Jackie Lager from Legal Aid, Maria Grass, who's on with us today, Tina Freiling, who's a private attorney, Tim George again, Peter Gressi from Gannon University, who is actually building a pardon hub among his students and just got a big go-ahead from his deans this morning. Michael Outlaw from the mayor's office. Been absolutely instrumental in making sure that this word gets out with credibility to the people who need to know about this and believe it. Stephanie Dimitrovich, Judge Dimitrovich, who helped us get together, who is insightful. She's now a senior judge here. And of course, Antonio Howard, who I think knew everybody, is everywhere. I think everybody knows him, depends on him. And without him, this Erie Pardon Project would not have come together. So all of you lawyers, thank you for being on the line. I will stay here answering questions. You can unmute yourself. Anyone in the room can ask questions, whatever you like. And I'm going to stop the recording.
Or stop sharing it, please.
Oh, stop sharing. Oh my goodness, sorry about that. All right. So we're going to stop the recording, and now we have questions if there are any.